Ever wonder why some people seem to effortlessly connect with the most powerful individuals? Today we're breaking down real strategies that turn you from invisible to indispensable. In this video you'll learn actionable tips to build influence, earn trust, and position yourself as someone elite circles actually notice. Stick around for practical insights you can apply immediately to grow your network and create opportunities. If you find this valuable, hit subscribe and join us for more powerful lessons that elevate your personal and professional game. Your next breakthrough could start here. Number 1. The silent rules power respects. Power rarely announces itself with fanfare. It arrives as quiet competence, as measured restraint, as a presence that rearranges the room without raising its voice. That silence is not empty, it's obeyed because it carries signal, discipline, predictability, and the promise of value. Learning the silent rules that power respects begins by recognizing that influence is less about who shouts the loudest and more about what your presence reliably delivers. Every interaction is an offer. Quality time, scarce attention, or meaningful help. If the offer is worthwhile, powerful people accept it. If it is weak noise, it's filtered out. This chapter teaches how to make your offer count in ways both immediate and long-lasting. First, practice the discipline of presence. Presence means more than standing in a room. It means carrying a calm, attentive focus that others feel is worth their time. Improve presence with one concrete daily practice. For 2 minutes each morning, close your eyes and breathe while imagining a single conversation you will have that day. Picture the other person's posture, the room's light, and the exact value you want to add. This conditions the nervous system to be composed and purpose-driven. When attention is scarce, calm attention becomes currency. Second, cultivate consistent competence. Power respects reliability. A single brilliant performance is noise. Repeatable, quiet excellence becomes a reputation. Choose 3 skills that map directly to the environments you want to enter. Schedule 30-minute focus blocks 4 times a week. To level up each skill, track incremental progress in a simple journal. Date, skill practiced, specific improvement, next micro goal. Over months, this disciplined accumulation transforms competence into a signal that attracts serious people. Third, protect your time as if it were a fragile, non-renewable resource. Powerful people are surrounded by requests. They respond to clear prioritization. Communicate boundaries politely and without apology. Use a script that is firm and simple. I can't take that on right now. Here's a trusted alternative, or I can meet for 20 minutes on Wednesday at this location. That short, decisive response trims ambiguity. Respecting others' time is also a silent rule. Arrive 5 minutes early, keep meetings sharp, and close with explicit next steps. When you value time publicly, other high-caliber people will reciprocate. Fourth, master emotional economy. Emotions are signals, and powerful people pay attention to reliability of reaction. Avoid extremes. When provoked, practice a pause. Inhale slowly, count to 5, then respond with an intention. Before sending any emotionally charged message, write it, wait an hour, and then edit ruthlessly. This creates a public persona of steadiness. People prefer predictable allies because they lower the cost of coordination. Stability becomes your unspoken contract. Fifth, develop scarcity in your availability and abundance in your value. Scarcity creates attention, value earns it. Pick one contribution you will offer abundantly, e.g. introduction, insight, hands-on help, and one resource you will ration, e.g. immediate meetings, free advice. When offering something valuable, do it with generosity and clear boundaries. I'll create a concise note with 3 introductions and a brief context for each. One time. This lets recipients treat your help as treasured and not taken for granted. Sixth, sharpen the art of listening. Listening is not waiting to speak. It's mapping needs and creating openings. Practice the 80-18-20 listening rule in conversations. Listen 80% of the time, speak 20%. When you do speak, mirror back the other person's core point in one sentence, then add a single specific suggestion. This shows comprehension and utility, both admired in high circles. Listening also reveals patterns of pain and opportunity you can uniquely solve. That insight becomes your currency. Seventh, curate your narrative. Reputation is built in small moments, stitched together. Choose 3 phrases that describe what you bring and embody them in your daily actions. For instance, decisive problem solver, connector who respects time, steadfast executor. Wear those truths in how you show up. Concise emails, timely follow-through, and memorable follow-ups. Use a short follow-up template that is individualized and outcome-focused. Remind, add value, propose next step. Over time, this consistent narrative lets powerful people quickly understand what you are and whether you fit into their world. Eighth, be invisible when it matters and visible when it counts. Power respects discretion. When entrusted with sensitive information, protect it zealously. When you are the beneficiary of a contact or favor, acknowledge privately and amplify the other person publicly. That combination, private loyalty, public generosity, creates trust that is hard to manufacture. Keep a list of favors done and favors owed, review it monthly, and settle where appropriate. This mental ledger prevents accidental exploitation of relationships and makes reciprocity reliable. Ninth, practice small, tangible rituals that convey reliability. Polished email signatures, clean calendar invites with clear agendas, a one-page leave behind after meetings, and a professional voicemail message. These details seem minor until they are the only data someone has about you. Power notices precision. Create a template for introductions that includes a sentence about why the connection matters and a single next action. Use that template until the phrasing becomes reflex. Rituals reduce friction and project quiet competence. 10th, learn to create useful windows of leverage. Powerful people act when the window is small and the offer is clear. Frame proposals around what will change if action happens in the next 2 weeks. Use concrete metrics, dollars, time saved, reach expanded. If a project can produce a 90-day result, outline the first 30 days in exact steps. Small windows, urgency without frenzy, motivate action. Keep proposals short, 3 bullets, 1 headline, 1 clear next step. 11th, guard information sensitivity. Oversharing is the quickest route from interest to indifference. Share thoughts selectively, ask questions publicly, and hold analysis privately. When offering predictions, add the confidence level and a contingency. For example, this approach has a 60-70% chance to increase retention by X. Contingency, if it doesn't work, is Y. This measured transparency signals competence without theatrical certainty. 12th, tend to physical and vocal presence. Voice, posture, and attire are not vanity. They are instruments of credibility. Practice a daily voice warm-up, a minute of slow, measured breathing and vocalizing simple phrases to lower pitch and steady cadence. Record a 1-minute introduction and listen back. Clarity over cleverness. Wear clothes that fit the environment and are comfortable enough to move with. Small shifts in how you inhabit your body change how others hear your ideas. 13th, embrace slow accumulation. Power respects the long view. Short-term wins are useful, but the combination of steady growth and predictable integrity creates opportunity that compounds. Keep a 5-year map with annual milestones and monthly checkpoints. Every 90 days, Review what relationships moved forward, what value was added, and what behaviors require adjustment. Compounding relationships are created by consistent contact that respects boundaries and delivers utility. Real-world application follows a simple daily loop: prepare, perform, reflect. Preparation means setting one intention for the day's highest leverage relationship interaction. Performance is executing with calm focus and clear value. Reflection is a 5-minute evening note: what went well, what could be clearer, and one action for tomorrow. Rinse and repeat. These micro habits take minutes, but shape months. A short practical exercise to try today: identify one powerful person in your circle or network. Write a 2-sentence statement of how you can create value for them in the next 30 days. Then, create the smallest verifiable next step: a 30-second message, a 5-minute meeting, or a crisp question that uncovers a real need. Execute that step within 48 hours. Track the response and iterate. This is how silent rules become active influence. The Stoic core of these rules is simple. Control what is within your power, your attention, your emotional responses, your preparation, and accept what is outside it. Power responds to that clarity. When your actions are consistent, discreet, and valuable, they cut through noise. Influence is not theft. It is earned by being useful, predictable, and respectful of scarce resources. There will be missteps. Encounters will go cold. A sharp reaction to disappointment destroys future possibility. A measured adjustment preserves it. When a connection falters, write a brief note acknowledging what happened, offering one avenue of repair, and then return to the steady work of adding value elsewhere. Resilience is not ignoring failure. It is learning fast and continuing with discipline. Over time, these silent rules compound. The people you reach will be fewer and more aligned, the opportunities deeper, and your influence more natural. The most potent part of this practice is not who you meet, but who you become. Calm under pressure, useful without fanfare, and rare in both availability and value. Power respects that combination because it reduces risk and increases payoff. Become the person whose presence quietly rearranges possibilities, and rooms will begin to open. Number 2. How influential minds choose allies. Influential minds operate with precision. They don't randomly grant access or scatter their attention. They choose allies as carefully as a master gardener selects seeds for the soil that will produce the healthiest, most resilient harvest. The first principle to understand is that influence is an exchange, but not a transactional one in the superficial sense. It is a measured evaluation of potential, reliability, and alignment with long-term vision. To be considered an ally by someone whose decisions shape outcomes, you must demonstrate that you are more than just another name on a contact list. You must be someone whose presence meaningfully advances their goals while preserving integrity and trust. Observation is the first tool in the arsenal of influential people. They spend more time listening than talking, not because they are timid, but because they are gathering intelligence about who can contribute real value and who is noise. To mirror this in practice, start by carefully studying the patterns of the person you wish to align with. Notice their priorities, routines, and the outcomes they repeatedly reward. Watch the way they interact with their existing allies. What behaviors elicit attention or respect? Where do they respond with energy, and where do they remain indifferent? The answers reveal the implicit criteria they use to judge potential allies. Reliability and consistency are paramount. Those who wield influence know that every interaction carries risk. An ally who overpromises or fluctuates unpredictably becomes a liability no matter how talented. To establish yourself as a reliable partner, begin with micro-commitments. Offer small, verifiable actions that can be executed flawlessly. Deliver them on time, with clarity and attention to quality. Track these commitments publicly or privately, and ensure that each follow-through reinforces your reputation for dependability. Over time, these small actions compound into a signal of trustworthiness that is difficult to ignore. Value must be obvious, specific, and aligned. Influential people assess allies by the concrete advantages they bring, not by vague enthusiasm or charm. Take a methodical approach. List the skills, resources, or insights you can provide that are scarce, relevant, and timely. Then evaluate them against the other person's goals. Can your input accelerate a project, solve a problem, open doors that were previously closed? If the answer is yes, articulate it subtly in interactions. The goal is not self-promotion, but clarity. Your presence should immediately suggest a benefit without appearing transactional. Strategic timing amplifies perceived value. Influence is sensitive to rhythm. Offering assistance too early, too late, or in the wrong format can diminish credibility. Powerful minds understand the pace of initiatives, the pressures of deadlines, and the cycles of decision-making. Match your contributions to these rhythms. Track projects and initiatives over weeks or months, anticipating moments where your input will have maximal effect. When the timing is right, your intervention is no longer a gesture. It becomes leverage. Discretion and loyalty are non-negotiable. Those who hold sway are constantly exposed to requests, suggestions, and advice, often of a sensitive nature. Allies who demonstrate indiscretion quickly lose trust. Practically, this means managing information like a valuable asset. Share insights on a need-to-know basis, protect confidences rigorously, and avoid repeating strategic conversations outside approved contexts. Over time, the pattern of discreet behavior signals that you are safe, reliable, and worthy of deeper collaboration. Another critical factor is alignment with values and vision. Influence is not purely transactional, it is philosophical and cultural as well. Powerful individuals gravitate toward allies whose principles do not clash with their own. Assess your alignment before pursuing access. Are your ethics, work habits, and ambitions complementary? Can you articulate your long-term vision in a way that naturally intersects with theirs? Those who clearly understand shared goals are often selected over those with isolated, albeit impressive, skills. Alignment reassures them that engagement carries minimal friction and maximum synergy. Influential minds also consider the network effect. Alliances are rarely isolated. Each person connects to multiple nodes of influence. They evaluate how potential allies integrate into these networks, whether they introduce positivity, innovation, or resources, or whether they carry unnecessary drama. For practical application, maintain a clean, value-driven network yourself. Prioritize relationships that strengthen your reputation, amplify your capacity to contribute, and reduce the likelihood of conflict. A well-curated network signals that you are an ally who enhances the ecosystem rather than complicates it. Emotional intelligence is an underestimated filter. High-level decision-makers notice subtle cues, how someone handles criticism, disagreement, or stress. Those who demonstrate composure, empathy, and constructive problem-solving earn a level of trust that exceeds what skill alone can generate. Daily practice can sharpen this. Observe interactions, reflect on emotional responses, and refine strategies to remain calm, thoughtful, and solution-focused. Emotional reliability becomes part of the invisible calculus that powerful minds use when choosing whom to engage. Reciprocity is another cornerstone. Allies must both give and take in a balanced, thoughtful manner. Influential people favor relationships where effort is mutual, but not equal. In a simplistic sense, they value alignment of impact rather than volume of input. Begin by identifying the gaps, or needs in their current ecosystem, and determine how you can address one of these gaps meaningfully. Then ensure that your contributions are tangible and noticeable. Influence is drawn to those whose presence tangibly augments outcomes, not merely intentions. Influential minds also respect patience and long-term thinking. They avoid fleeting gestures or the appearance of opportunism. Those who seek immediate results or demonstrate desperation are quickly discounted. Develop a horizon-oriented mindset. Focus on building credibility over months, not days. Offer support incrementally. Demonstrate steady competence, loyalty, and insight. This slow, deliberate approach signals stability and foresight, qualities that attract trust and engagement. Observation, consistency, value, timing, discretion, alignment, network integration, emotional intelligence, reciprocity, and patience together form a framework that influential minds implicitly follow. Each component is observable and actionable. The real skill lies in integrating them into a daily rhythm. Deliberate preparation before engagements, mindful execution during interactions, and reflective learning afterward. Keep a daily journal noting interactions, the responses observed, and opportunities for improvement. Over weeks and months, patterns emerge, helping refine your approach and anticipate the needs of those you wish to ally with. The process is not effortless. Influential people are surrounded by candidates who want their attention, but few succeed because they fail in at least one domain. They overextend themselves, misalign values, act impulsively, or lack clarity in contribution. By systematically mastering these areas, you differentiate yourself from noise. You become the person whose presence is sought, whose opinion is respected, and whose input shapes decisions. Small, practical exercises for today include observing a high-value individual and mapping their patterns, identifying one skill or resource you can offer immediately, and crafting a concise message that communicates intent without desperation. Another is reflecting on past interactions and noting where emotional reactions could have been tempered to build credibility. These exercises, repeated, form habits that compound influence over time. Ultimately, choosing allies is less about flattery, charm, or opportunism, and more about consistently demonstrating that you are a reliable, aligned, emotionally intelligent, and strategically valuable partner. Those who possess influence are naturally selective because every engagement carries opportunity and risk. By embodying these principles, you move from seeking access to being sought after. Influence is not granted lightly, but it can be earned deliberately. The minds that matter most respond not to noise, but to signals of reliability, insight, and alignment. Become that signal, and alliances will form naturally, bringing opportunities, growth, and trust that endure. The journey requires discipline, self-awareness, and patience. Each interaction is an investment in credibility. Each contribution a test of reliability. Each reflection a step toward refinement. The reward is access to minds that shape decisions, spaces that create outcomes, and relationships that compound value. Those who follow these principles consistently find that influence is less a pursuit and more an inevitable consequence of becoming the type of ally that powerful people naturally choose. Number 3. Entering rooms that shape outcomes. The act of entering a room is rarely neutral. Every space carries energy, expectations, and unspoken hierarchies. The people within that room are not just participants, they are vectors of influence, shaping decisions that ripple far beyond the four walls. To step into a room and actually shape outcomes, rather than merely exist within it, requires a blend of preparation, awareness, and strategic presence. It is not about performance or spectacle. It is about understanding the dynamics at play and positioning yourself to act decisively when opportunity arises. Begin with meticulous preparation. Entering a room without knowledge is surrendering control. Learn everything you can about the individuals present, the purpose of the gathering, and the context of prior interactions. Map relationships. Who influences whom, who is aligned with certain interests, and who tends to dominate or defer. When possible, review past conversations, outcomes, and decisions. This intelligence allows you to anticipate where openings exist and where your interventions will carry weight. Preparation is not a task, it is a mindset of strategic attentiveness. Next, consider your entrance. First impressions are not superficial. They set the tone for how your presence is interpreted. Aim for a balance of confidence and composure. Observe the room briefly before engaging. Notice energy levels, seating arrangements, and conversational clusters. Identify the nodes of influence and orient yourself strategically. Positioning near these nodes increases the likelihood that your ideas will be heard and considered. Subtle adjustments, standing near decision makers, offering a calm smile, maintaining relaxed posture, communicate awareness and control. Active observation is critical. Before speaking, absorb the rhythm of interaction. Note who interrupts, who nods in agreement, and who listens silently. These cues reveal not just status, but emotional and cognitive dynamics. Powerful outcomes are often shaped by understanding what is not said. The subtle resistance, the unspoken alignment, and the priorities that underlie the discussion. By observing first, you reduce the risk of misalignment and increase the precision of your contributions. The way you communicate is just as important as what you communicate. Concise, high-impact statements are more effective than lengthy explanations. Deliver ideas in a format that makes them easy to process and act upon. Clear headlines, supporting points in 2 to 3 sentences, and a suggested next step. Avoid filler or abstraction. Powerful minds favor clarity and actionable insight over vivacity. Every word should serve the purpose of moving the discussion closer to a measurable outcome. Timing is another critical dimension. Intervening too early can be perceived as intrusive. Too late, and your contribution may be ignored. Observe the flow of the room and identify moments when influence can shift momentum. These often occur after someone presents a problem, shares data, or pauses for consensus. Insert your perspective at these inflection points, framing it as both relevant and solution-oriented. Strategic timing signals awareness and increases the impact of your input. The concept of strategic alignment must guide your engagement. Understand the goals of the room. Whether stated or implied, each comment, question, or suggestion should reinforce progress toward those objectives. If the gathering is about decision-making, frame your contributions around actionable options. If it is about problem-solving, focus on insights that clarify the situation or illuminate paths forward. Contributions that appear tangential or self-serving reduce credibility and risk marginalization. Nonverbal communication plays an understated but powerful role. Eye contact, posture, and micro-expressions influence perception before words are processed. Maintain relaxed yet alert posture. Use measured gestures and mirror subtle cues of key participants to foster subconscious rapport. Avoid signs of impatience or defensiveness, as these can undermine authority and distract from the message you intend to convey. Your physical presence should reinforce competence and calm judgment. Building influence within the room also requires listening with purpose. True listening goes beyond hearing words. It involves decoding intent, emotional tone, and strategic priorities. When someone articulates a challenge, summarize it mentally and frame potential solutions that address both the explicit and implicit needs. A single well-placed insight that demonstrates comprehension and utility can shift perception more than multiple scattered contributions. Listening strategically establishes credibility and opens pathways for meaningful engagement. Adaptability is vital. No two rooms are the same, and rigid behavior is quickly noticed. Monitor reactions continuously. Does the audience respond positively, with skepticism, or with hesitation? Adjust your tone, pacing, and level of detail accordingly. Flexibility does not mean inauthenticity. It means responding to environmental cues intelligently and maintaining alignment with your objectives. Those who adapt effectively are the ones whose presence subtly influences decisions without drawing unnecessary attention to their maneuvering. Silence can be as powerful as speech. Thoughtful pauses allow others to process, encourage reflection, and create openings for strategic input. Resist the urge to fill every gap. Pauses communicate confidence and signal that your presence is measured and deliberate. Influence often accrues to those who allow space for others to speak, while offering interventions that are concise and meaningful when they do engage. Preparation for rooms that shape outcomes should also include scenario mapping. Anticipate possible objections, questions, or points of contention. Prepare responses that are both rational and emotionally calibrated. Anticipating obstacles reduces the likelihood of being caught off guard and signals that you are thoughtful, solution-oriented, and ready to contribute substantively. Scenario mapping also enhances mental resilience, allowing you to maintain composure even in tense or high-stakes discussions. Building relationships in these spaces is another layer of influence. Strategic presence is not limited to verbal contributions. It includes the networks formed through observation, informal conversations, and shared experiences. Identify one or two individuals with whom you can establish rapport during the gathering. Brief, meaningful interactions, asking insightful questions, offering a resource, or recognizing a contribution build allies who amplify your voice and provide situational intelligence. These micro-connections compound over time, extending influence beyond the immediate room. The act of shaping outcomes requires follow-through. Influence does not end when the room empties. Summarize commitments, circulate concise follow-up notes, and provide tangible next steps. This transforms observed competence and strategic presence into measurable action. Those who fail to follow through risk being perceived as superficial, regardless of how impressive their in-room performance appeared. Follow-up demonstrates reliability, strategic clarity, and sustained engagement. Daily practice builds mastery. Before entering any meeting or gathering, spend time reviewing the objectives, the participants, and your intended contributions. Visualize scenarios in which your interventions create measurable impact. Afterward, reflect on the alignment of your actions with intended outcomes. Note what worked, what did not, and how subtle adjustments could increase effectiveness. These reflective exercises, repeated over weeks, ingrain a habit of deliberate, outcome-oriented engagement. Finally, the mindset of entering rooms that shape outcomes is grounded in self-mastery. Confidence, composure, and clarity are cultivated through daily habits of discipline, learning, and reflection. Influence is not an act of ego. It is the natural consequence of preparedness, understanding, and strategic contribution. Rooms that shape decisions are the arenas where opportunities are concentrated, and those who approach them with focus, insight, and restraint consistently emerge not just present, but instrumental in outcomes. By integrating preparation, observation, strategic timing, adaptability, silence, scenario mapping, network building, and rigorous follow-through, anyone can move from being a passive attendee to an active contributor. Influence in these spaces is earned through deliberate practice, consistent competence, and a mindset attuned to the dynamics of people and priorities. The ability to shape outcomes is not innate. It is cultivated by those who respect the rules of the environment, contribute value intentionally, and act with clarity and discretion. Every room is an opportunity, every interaction a test of strategic presence. By internalizing these principles, each entry becomes a calculated act that shifts energy, influences decisions, and leaves a lasting imprint. Success in these environments compounds quietly, and those who master the art of entering rooms with intent consistently shape the paths of decisions, relationships, and achievements that follow. Number 4. Why power listens to few. Power is selective. It does not diffuse evenly, nor does it distribute attention freely. Those who command influence are constantly surrounded by noise, requests, advice, opinions, and ideas. To navigate this deluge, they develop an instinct for prioritization, choosing to listen only to those who consistently provide clarity, insight, and tangible value. Understanding why power listens to few is essential for anyone aiming to gain influence. It is not a matter of charm, popularity, or proximity. It is about establishing oneself as a reliable, indispensable signal amidst the static. At the core of selective listening is credibility. Powerful individuals are attuned to patterns. One-off brilliance may attract attention momentarily, but it is sustained reliability that earns repeated consideration. Every interaction with them is evaluated subconsciously. Does this person offer actionable insight? Are they prepared, thoughtful, and consistent? Do they demonstrate a grasp of reality as it is, not as it could be in theory? Those who fail to answer these questions consistently are filtered out. To become part of the narrow circle that is heard, one must demonstrate competence that aligns with the priorities and worldview of the decision-maker. Clarity is another driving factor. Influence gravitates toward those who communicate ideas concisely and with precision. The attention of powerful people is a scarce resource. Lengthy explanations, vague assertions, or excessive qualifications diminish the likelihood of being heard. Structuring contributions around a clear premise, a few supporting points, and an actionable suggestion transforms information into utility. It signals that your input is not noise, but a tool that can be immediately applied or considered. When every word counts, brevity becomes a strategic advantage. Timing shapes listening as much as content. Insights presented at the wrong moment, even if brilliant, may be ignored. Influential individuals respond to inputs that arrive in alignment with their immediate priorities and decision cycles. Observing the rhythm of their attention when they review data, when they deliberate, when they seek input is critical. Intervene too early, and your contribution may be forgotten. Intervene too late, and it may be irrelevant. Anticipation of these windows demonstrates both awareness and strategic understanding, which in turn increases the likelihood of being heard. Trustworthiness acts as a filter that power applies almost instinctively. Individuals whose words and actions demonstrate integrity are listened to more than those whose motives are ambiguous. Discretion, honesty, and alignment with shared goals create a mental shortcut. These are people whose advice and observations can be relied upon without exhaustive verification. For anyone seeking influence, cultivating a reputation for discretion and dependability is non-negotiable. Those who speak without precedent of trustworthiness are swiftly categorized as background noise. Relevance is non-negotiable. Power attends to signals that address pressing needs or illuminate high-leverage opportunities. Generic advice or commentary is disregarded because it does not contribute to outcomes. To capture attention, identify the specific challenges, goals, or aspirations of the influential person and tailor insights accordingly. Focused contributions demonstrate comprehension, foresight, and situational awareness, transforming input from noise to a resource that deserves consideration. Influential people also filter based on the potential for leverage. They listen to those whose insights can create ripple effects or solve multiple problems simultaneously. One observation that addresses several challenges is more valuable than 10 fragmented ideas. To emulate this principle, develop the habit of connecting dots between seemingly disparate pieces of information, identifying solutions that maximize impact relative to effort. Those who offer leverage consistently become integral to strategic decision-making. Emotional economy is another critical determinant. Power does not tolerate volatility or unpredictability in counsel. Opinions expressed in anger, frustration, or self-interest are discounted. Conversely, contributions framed with composure, rationality, and constructive intent are weighed carefully. Practicing emotional regulation is therefore essential. Reflect before speaking. Prioritize solutions over complaints and communicate in a manner that conveys calm authority. Emotional discipline creates credibility and increases the likelihood that your perspective will be absorbed. Another key aspect is demonstrated initiative. Individuals who only react or observe are rarely included in the inner circle of influence. Those whose actions anticipate needs, solve problems proactively, or offer novel insights signal value that merits attention. Small, concrete initiatives can establish patterns of utility, an analysis that preempts a critical question, a resource that accelerates a project, or a connection that facilitates collaboration. Over time, these behaviors accumulate into a track record that powerful minds recognize and respond to consistently. Selective listening is also tied to alignment of principles. Influential individuals filter input through a lens of shared values, priorities, and vision. Contributions that clash with fundamental objectives or ethical frameworks are immediately disregarded. Understanding and articulating perspectives in a manner that resonates with the underlying principles of those you wish to influence increases receptivity. Alignment demonstrates that your advice or insight is not only competent, but also compatible with the overarching goals, making it inherently actionable. Efficiency is critical. Power often exists in environments where decisions must be made quickly and accurately. Individuals whose communication is efficient, highlighting the essence of the matter without distraction, naturally attract attention. Develop the ability to summarize complex observations in succinct, high-impact statements. Create mental templates for framing problems, insights, and recommendations that reduce cognitive load for the listener. The fewer mental steps required to process your contribution, the higher the probability it will be considered. Observation and pattern recognition underpin selective listening. Powerful individuals notice subtle indicators, a consistent track record, behavioral cues, timing of contributions, and relational dynamics. To gain attention, cultivate the skill of observing outcomes, responses, and interpersonal patterns within your environment. Identify what elicits attention, what earns trust, and what contributes to tangible progress. Adapting your approach based on these observations increases resonance with decision makers and enhances the likelihood of being heard. The concentration of attention among few is a protective measure as much as a strategic one. Power is vulnerable to distraction, dilution, and misinformation. By limiting listening to trusted, valuable sources, influential people preserve focus and decision-making clarity. For anyone seeking influence, this principle is instructive. Your goal is to become one of the few whose input is trusted, relevant, and high impact. Focus, not quantity, determines access. To practice becoming one of those few, begin with deliberate consistency. Deliver quality contributions reliably, demonstrate situational awareness, anticipate needs, and communicate with precision. Keep interactions outcome-oriented, emotionally disciplined, and aligned with long-term objectives. Over time, these patterns signal that your presence is not only helpful, but essential. Those who achieve this status are not merely heard, they are incorporated into the decision-making process and become part of the ecosystem that shapes outcomes. Finally, recognize that earning a place among the few requires patience and resilience. Influence is not granted instantly. It accrues through repeated demonstration of value, reliability, and alignment. Each interaction is a test of relevance, composure, and insight. Missteps may occur, but consistent application of these principles rebuilds credibility and strengthens presence. Power listens to few because only those who understand, anticipate, and contribute meaningfully can sustain attention over time. By mastering clarity, reliability, relevance, emotional intelligence, initiative, alignment, and efficiency, anyone can position themselves as one of the indispensable voices that power cannot afford to ignore. Becoming one of the few requires daily discipline, reflection on interactions, analysis of outcomes, and continuous adjustment of approach. Every conversation, meeting, or contribution is an opportunity to reinforce credibility, demonstrate insight, and cultivate alignment with influential minds. The reward is access to decision-making processes, strategic discussions, and high-leverage opportunities that remain invisible to the majority. Listening selectively is not exclusion for its own sake. It is the natural result of optimizing attention toward individuals who deliver measurable impact. Those who internalize and embody these principles find that influence is not merely a pursuit, it is the inevitable consequence of becoming one of the voices power chooses to hear. Number 5. Signals that earn elite attention. Attention at the elite level is never accidental. It is earned through signals, subtle, deliberate, and consistent, that communicate competence, reliability, and potential without demanding recognition. Those who rise to the top are surrounded by countless voices, yet they respond only to cues that demonstrate both immediate utility and long-term alignment with their goals. Understanding which signals capture elite attention is crucial for anyone seeking to influence, collaborate, or gain meaningful access. These signals are neither flashy nor superficial. They are precise markers of value, presence, and strategic awareness that resonate with discerning minds. The first signal is preparation. Elite individuals notice when someone has done their homework. It goes beyond familiarity with a topic. It demonstrates that you understand the context, the stakes, and the potential consequences of any engagement. Before meetings or interactions, research participants, their priorities, and recent initiatives. Know the language they use, the metrics they value, and the historical context of decisions they have made. When your insights reference specific realities rather than generalities, it communicates respect for their time and an ability to contribute meaningfully. Preparation signals that you operate with intentionality and foresight. Actionable clarity is another critical signal. High-level decision-makers are rarely persuaded by abstract ideas or broad suggestions. They are drawn to contributions that offer solutions framed in measurable terms. When presenting ideas, structure them with a clear outcome, a concise rationale, and a proposed step forward. Avoid digression or speculative commentary that lacks practical implications. The signal here is precision. Your input can be understood, evaluated, and implemented with minimal friction. Clarity demonstrates that you are not only intelligent but operationally effective. Consistency communicates reliability. One brilliant insight earns attention briefly, but repeated demonstration of competence earns trust. track commitments and deliverables meticulously, and ensure follow-through every time. Reliability is particularly noticeable in elite circles because lapses are rare among those who rise to prominence. Being known as someone whose word can be counted on differentiates you from transient voices, turning sporadic acknowledgement into sustained access. Emotional composure is a signal often overlooked, but profoundly impactful. Elite minds are sensitive to volatility because it introduces uncertainty into their environment. Exhibiting calm under pressure, measured responses in contentious situations, and controlled enthusiasm signals stability and maturity. These traits indicate that you are capable of contributing without creating unnecessary turbulence, which is valued more highly than raw intellect or talent alone. Emotional discipline communicates that your presence enhances decision-making rather than complicates it. Demonstrating scarcity in attention and abundance in value is a subtle yet powerful signal. Being constantly available may seem advantageous, but elite figures respond to those who are judicious with their time while delivering substantial benefit when engaged. Carefully select which opportunities to pursue and ensure that when you do act, the impact is noticeable and meaningful. This scarcity communicates self-respect and discipline, while the demonstrated value proves your relevance. The combination of selectivity and utility is magnetic in elite contexts. Strategic foresight is another marker that earns notice. Individuals who can anticipate challenges, identify opportunities, or connect seemingly unrelated pieces of information signal a level of cognitive sophistication that captures attention. Practice scenario thinking. For every situation, map out potential outcomes, risks, and opportunities. Present insights that reflect this foresight concisely, showing that you are not merely reacting to events, but thinking ahead in ways that others cannot. This forward-looking intelligence distinguishes voices worth listening to from the general chatter. Adaptability is essential in conveying competence and value. Signals of rigid thinking or resistance to new information diminish credibility. Elite attention is drawn to individuals who can pivot intelligently when circumstances change, adjust strategies with minimal friction, and integrate novel insights without losing coherence. Cultivate mental flexibility by regularly evaluating assumptions, seeking diverse perspectives, and testing alternative approaches to familiar problems. This adaptability signals both resilience and strategic sophistication. Observational acuity is a signal that communicates subtle intelligence. Elite individuals notice who pays attention to the unspoken dynamics, who grasps the nuance of conversations, and who identifies hidden opportunities. Develop the habit of observing body language, tone shifts, and relational dynamics in meetings or social interactions. Recognize patterns in decision-making and priorities. Your awareness of these subtleties signals that you are attuned to environments where influence is concentrated, allowing your contributions to be timed and framed for maximal effect. The ability to synthesize and distill information is another critical signal. Those at the top are inundated with data and ideas, yet they respond to individuals who can extract essential insights efficiently. Practice summarizing complex issues in a few sentences, highlighting implications, and proposing actionable next steps. This skill communicates that you respect their cognitive bandwidth and are capable of translating complexity into clarity. The elite respond to those who make their decision-making more precise, faster, and more informed. Physical presence and demeanor also send signals. While substance matters most, how you carry yourself influences perception. Calm posture, controlled gestures, measured tone, and deliberate pacing all communicate confidence without arrogance. Elite attention is drawn to individuals whose presence reassures, conveys competence, and projects authority naturally. These nonverbal cues reinforce credibility and enhance the reception of verbal contributions. Network awareness is a signal that reflects strategic value. Elite figures respond to those who understand relational dynamics and leverage connections intelligently. Recognize who matters in the room, who influences decisions, and how your relationships intersect with their priorities. Facilitating introductions, providing context for collaborations, or aligning contributions with broader objectives communicates that you operate with situational intelligence. Strategic social awareness signals both competence and usefulness. Consistency in demonstrating integrity amplifies attention. Elite individuals are attuned to reliability, honesty, and alignment with principles. When your words and actions consistently reflect ethical standards, trust builds naturally. Deviation from these standards diminishes attention, regardless of skill. Maintaining a track record of integrity communicates that your contributions are credible, your advice dependable, and your involvement low risk. The timing of intervention signals insight. Knowing when to speak, when to pause, and when to act requires keen observation and judgment. Contributions that arrive precisely when they are most needed capture attention far more effectively than those offered randomly. Anticipate critical moments in discussions or decision-making cycles and calibrate your input accordingly. Timing communicates awareness of priorities, situational intelligence, and respect for the process. Finally, follow-through reinforces every other signal. Attention earned through preparation, clarity, reliability, and insight can be wasted without execution. Provide results, confirm commitments, and maintain accountability. Follow-through signals that your contributions are not performative, but operationally effective. Those at the top recognize and reward action, making follow-through one of the most potent ways to convert attention into sustained influence. The signals that earn elite attention are cumulative and self-reinforcing. Preparation, clarity, consistency, emotional composure, scarcity with value, foresight, adaptability, observational acuity, synthesis, presence, network awareness, integrity, timing, and follow-through all converge to create a persona that naturally attracts notice. Each signal is subtle but powerful. Together, they make your presence undeniable to discerning minds. Daily practice involves deliberate attention to these markers. Before any engagement, plan your contribution, anticipate how it will be received, and identify the cues you want to communicate. During interactions, observe, respond deliberately, and adapt while signaling competence and strategic value. Afterward, reflect on outcomes, adjust approaches, and reinforce patterns that enhance perception. Over time, these deliberate habits embed into natural behavior, making your signals consistent, reliable, and influential. Elite attention is scarce because it is valuable. The individuals who receive it have earned it through repeated demonstration of relevance, insight, and operational impact. By understanding and mastering the subtle signals that draw their notice, you position yourself not as an intruder in their world, but as a trusted, high-value contributor. Attention, once earned, becomes the foundation for influence, opportunity, and meaningful collaboration, and those who consistently practice these principles find themselves recognized and engaged in ways that transform potential into tangible impact. Number 6. The psychology behind strategic connections. Strategic connections are not accidental. They are crafted with intention, awareness, and an understanding of the psychological dynamics that govern human interaction. Behind every powerful network lies an invisible architecture, patterns of trust, reciprocity, alignment, and perceived value that determine who gets access and who remains peripheral. To navigate this landscape effectively, it is crucial to understand how influential minds evaluate relationships and why certain connections generate impact while others dissolve into noise. At the core of strategic connections is the principle of perceived utility. People prioritize relationships that deliver tangible or potential benefits, whether these are access to resources, knowledge, credibility, or opportunities. The psychology behind this is rooted in efficiency. Individuals naturally conserve attention for interactions that maximize return. To become a sought-after connection, focus on what unique value you can provide. This requires deep self-awareness. Identify your strengths, skills, resources, and insights that are scarce, relevant, and actionable for the people you aim to engage. When your presence signals utility, trust and attention naturally follow. Reciprocity operates as a powerful psychological mechanism. Human beings are wired to respond to contributions, favors, and acts of assistance. Strategic connections leverage this principle not through manipulation, but through consistent demonstration of support, insight, and reliability. Small, meaningful gestures accumulate over time, providing timely information, sharing introductions, or offering expertise without immediate expectation of return signals both generosity and competence. Influential individuals internalize these cues, viewing you as an ally who enhances their capacity to act, rather than as someone seeking personal gain. Trust is foundational in the psychology of alliances. People are selective with whom they share access, insight, and influence, because every relationship carries risk. Establishing trust involves consistency, discretion, and authenticity. When interactions demonstrate integrity, follow-through, and alignment between words and actions, trust strengthens incrementally. Conversely, inconsistency, exaggeration, or opportunism erodes credibility, often irreversibly. Strategic connection requires cultivating a track record that communicates reliability before access is even requested. Trust signals to others that engagement with you is low risk and high value. Alignment of values and priorities amplifies connection potential. Humans are psychologically attuned to congruence. We gravitate toward individuals whose goals, ethics, and working styles complement our own. Effective strategic connections are forged where shared principles intersect. To apply this, observe the behaviors, decisions, and expressed priorities of those you wish to align with. Frame your contributions in ways that resonate with these observed values. The stronger the perceived alignment, the more likely your presence is considered beneficial, actionable, and worthy of attention. Scarcity and selective availability play a subtle psychological role. People value attention that is limited and signal significance. Being overly accessible diminishes perceived value, while judicious availability signals self-respect, confidence, and strategic prioritization. When interacting with high-level individuals, choose engagements that maximize relevance and impact. Prioritize quality over quantity. This psychological principle ensures that your presence is perceived as deliberate and your contributions as deliberate signals of competence. Observational intelligence is a critical factor. Influential individuals subconsciously assess how well potential allies perceive dynamics within their environment. Noticing patterns, understanding relationships, and anticipating needs signals cognitive attunement. To cultivate this, actively study social and professional interactions. Who influences whom, what patterns dictate decision-making, and which behaviors generate recognition. Integrating this understanding into your actions allows contributions that feel intuitive to others, reinforcing the impression that your connection is high value. Emotional resonance also governs connection building. Humans are responsive to emotional cues that indicate stability, empathy, and constructive engagement. Those who react impulsively, negatively, or self-servingly are discounted, while those who exhibit composure, measured enthusiasm, and active listening generate psychological comfort. Mastering emotional regulation strengthens your appeal as a connection capable of enduring stress, conflict, and high-stakes scenarios. Emotional intelligence signals that your presence enhances social and strategic environments rather than destabilizes them. Reputation operates as a network multiplier. Psychology dictates that perceived credibility is amplified by external validation. Being recognized by trusted individuals signals competence and reliability indirectly to others. Engage in behaviors that strengthen your reputation within relevant circles, consistently delivering results, supporting peers meaningfully, and demonstrating strategic foresight. Over time, recognition by others becomes a psychological endorsement, making new connections more receptive to engagement without additional persuasion. Strategic connections require the ability to identify leverage points. Humans respond to interactions that facilitate outcomes or reduce friction in achieving goals. Offering insight, access, or solutions precisely where they intersect with a person's current challenges positions you as a valuable ally. Map opportunities to contribute in ways that intersect with pressing priorities, ensuring that engagement is both timely and relevant. Leveraging cognitive empathy, anticipating how your input will be received and applied, enhances the likelihood that your presence produces tangible impact. Commitment signaling further reinforces psychological weight. People assess not just what you offer, but how invested you appear in outcomes. Demonstrating focus, preparedness, and consistency communicates long-term intent. Contributing to initiatives in meaningful ways, taking responsibility for small but critical actions, and maintaining visible dedication signals that you are a serious and reliable participant in relationships that matter. Commitment creates psychological confidence that investing attention in you is worthwhile. The psychology of network expansion emphasizes selective engagement. Connections are not built indiscriminately. Each relationship has the potential to either enhance or dilute influence. Evaluate each opportunity for alignment, potential impact, and compatibility with existing connections. Prioritize engagements that multiply access or generate compounded value rather than those that merely expand quantity. Humans naturally assess relational efficiency, and those who demonstrate strategic selectivity are perceived as higher status allies. Storytelling and contextual framing are underappreciated signals. Humans are wired to understand and internalize information through narratives. When conveying insights, solutions, or perspectives, situate them within a context that resonates with the listener's priorities and experiences. A well-constructed story communicates relevance, demonstrates understanding, and increases the memorability of your contribution. This psychological mechanism ensures that your input is retained, valued, and likely acted upon. Attention to micro-behaviors also matters. Small cues, eye contact, posture, tone, timing, and subtle gestures affect perceptions of confidence, credibility, and competence. These signals influence both conscious and subconscious evaluation. By aligning micro-behaviors with intended strategic outcomes, you reinforce the perception that your presence is controlled, competent, and aligned with shared objectives. These non-verbal cues act as psychological markers that amplify the perceived value of your connection. Finally, patience and incremental engagement shape long-term connectivity. Humans are cautious about granting full access immediately. Trust and influence accumulate over time. Strategic connections are cultivated through repeated demonstration of competence, reliability, alignment, and value. Each interaction builds a foundation, and consistent reinforcement solidifies the perception of indispensability. Recognizing this psychological pacing prevents impatience, overextension, or misaligned engagement that could undermine relational growth. The psychology behind strategic connections demonstrates that influence is not random or superficial. It is built upon consistent signals of utility, trust, alignment, emotional stability, observational intelligence, leverage, commitment, selectivity, narrative framing, micro-behavior alignment, and patience. Understanding these principles allows anyone to approach relationships deliberately, creating networks that are both resilient and high impact. Strategic connections are a psychological dance. Each contribution, behavior, and signal shapes perception, builds trust, and multiplies influence over time. Mastery lies in recognizing patterns, anticipating responses, and aligning every action with both value creation and relational integrity. By internalizing these principles and applying them consistently, connections transition from transactional to strategic. Relationships become pathways for shared success, influence, and meaningful collaboration. The disciplined application of these psychological insights ensures that every engagement is intentional, every contribution is epilized, and every connection has the potential to shape opportunities, outcomes, and long-term impact. Strategic connections are not merely cultivated, they are earned through an understanding of human behavior, deliberate action, and the ability to consistently provide recognizable value. Number 7. Positioning yourself as opportunity. Being perceived as opportunity is less about self-promotion and more about cultivating a presence that others instinctively recognize as valuable and actionable. Elite minds, decision-makers, and influential individuals are constantly evaluating environments for potential. Who can accelerate outcomes? Who reduces friction? Who can be trusted to deliver impact without constant oversight? Positioning yourself as opportunity requires understanding what drives these evaluations and aligning your actions, presence, and behavior with them. It is not a superficial exercise, it is a disciplined approach to demonstrating consistent utility, foresight, and reliability. The first step is clarity of value. Opportunity is always associated with concrete benefits. Identify the unique skills, insights, resources, or perspectives that you bring to the table and ensure they are both rare and relevant. Rare in that few others possess them. Relevant in that they align directly with the goals, challenges, and priorities of the individuals or networks you wish to engage. Once these assets are clear, position them subtly through your actions rather than words alone. Opportunity is noticed, not advertised. It is the consistent demonstration of usefulness that signals potential. Reliability amplifies perceived opportunity. When people know that your contributions are consistently delivered on time, with quality, and with precision, they begin to anticipate your involvement as a lever for progress. Small incremental actions repeated over time build credibility that outweighs the flashiest gestures. Maintaining meticulous follow-through on commitments, no matter how minor, signals that engaging with you carries predictable positive outcomes. This trust forms the foundation of opportunity. People do not act on promise alone, they act on demonstrated consistency. Proactivity is another crucial factor. Opportunity is associated with forward motion. Individuals who wait passively for instructions or recognition are rarely seen as transformative allies. Identify areas where meaningful action can be taken, anticipate challenges before they arise, and offer solutions or insights that align with ongoing initiatives. Anticipation signals both intelligence and commitment. When your interventions reduce friction or accelerate decision-making, you are no longer an optional participant, you become a necessary catalyst. Strategic visibility enhances the perception of opportunity. This is not about self-promotion, but about ensuring that your contributions are recognized by the right individuals at the right times. Engage in ways that are observable within networks that matter, such as delivering concise insights during high-impact meetings, contributing solutions to pressing problems, or facilitating connections that generate results. By positioning actions where they are most likely to be noticed by decision makers, your utility becomes evident without verbal assertion. Alignment with priorities is non-negotiable. Opportunity is not perceived by those whose goals or values are unaligned with your own. Map the ambitions, objectives, and challenges of the people whose attention you seek. Shape your contributions, communications, and behaviors so they reinforce and enhance these priorities. When your presence consistently advances the goals of others, you are interpreted as a multiplier of results rather than a participant seeking personal advantage. Alignment creates natural receptivity. Adaptability strengthens positioning. Opportunity often arises in dynamic, unpredictable environments. Those who demonstrate flexibility, rapid problem-solving, and composure under pressure are viewed as assets who can navigate uncertainty effectively. Cultivate mental agility by intentionally exposing yourself to varied challenges, observing the effects of different approaches, and refining strategies based on outcomes. The ability to respond intelligently to shifting conditions signals that your presence is not just valuable today, but sustainable into the future. Effective communication is essential. Opportunity is rarely recognized without clarity in messaging. Structure ideas, recommendations, and insights so they are digestible and actionable. Avoid overly abstract language. Focus instead on tangible implications, measurable results, and clear next steps. People respond to contributions they can immediately integrate into decision-making. When communication enhances comprehension and reduces cognitive friction, it elevates your perceived utility. Emotional intelligence is a subtle yet powerful component. Opportunity is often filtered through the lens of trust, reliability, and relational competence. Demonstrating empathy, patience, and emotional composure ensures that engagement with you does not introduce unpredictability or conflict. Attentiveness to social cues, careful observation of interpersonal dynamics, and responses calibrated to context signal that your involvement enhances collective outcomes rather than complicates them. Resourcefulness reinforces your status as opportunity. High-level collaborators notice those who can solve problems, connect dots, and generate results with limited input or support. Cultivate the habit of identifying solutions within constraints, proposing alternatives that reduce risk, and offering insights that unlock stalled initiatives. Demonstrated ingenuity communicates that your involvement multiplies available resources rather than simply consuming them, a key marker of perceived opportunity. Selective engagement communicates both value and self-discipline. Opportunity is associated with scarcity. Those who are always available without distinction are less likely to be perceived as high-impact contributors. Prioritize interactions and projects where your contributions can yield measurable influence, and refrain from overextending. Strategic choice signals that your involvement is a deliberate, high-leverage act, rather than a passive presence. Relationship curation is another pillar. Opportunity is recognized within networks that reinforce credibility and access. Connect thoughtfully, ensuring your alliances reflect competence, reliability, and shared purpose. Introduce value into relationships strategically, linking people, resources, or insights in ways that amplify collective outcomes. By becoming a connector who enhances others' capacity to succeed, you naturally elevate your perception as opportunity within influential circles. Continuous learning sustains opportunity. Environments that reward high performance evolve rapidly. Skills, insights, and relevance must be maintained and updated. Dedicate time to deepening expertise, observing trends, and refining approaches. Those who demonstrate ongoing growth signal resilience and long-term potential, reinforcing the idea that engagement with them is an investment with enduring payoff. Timing remains an overarching consideration. Strategic action is only meaningful when it coincides with moments of high impact. Observe decision cycles, problem emergence, and opportunity windows to intervene when contributions can shape outcomes. Missed timing, even with perfect input, diminishes perceived value. Being attuned to rhythm, deadlines, and priorities ensures that your presence is not merely visible but catalytic. Every interaction should reinforce the perception of opportunity. Approach each engagement with an awareness of what you bring, the needs of others, and the broader context of your actions. Anticipate questions, address gaps preemptively, and structure contributions so they advance objectives efficiently. Over time, repeated demonstration of these behaviors transforms reputation into leverage. People begin to seek you out, anticipating the value your involvement will deliver. The psychological foundation of being perceived as opportunity hinges on consistent demonstration of utility, foresight, reliability, emotional composure, alignment, adaptability, strategic visibility, resourcefulness, selective engagement, relationship curation, continuous learning, and timing. These principles converge to create a persona that naturally attracts attention and trust, signaling that your presence is not incidental but instrumental. Those who embody them move beyond being noticed to being indispensable, transforming perception into opportunity and opportunity into sustained influence. Daily practice reinforces positioning. Reflect on each engagement to assess whether your actions projected value, whether they aligned with others' priorities, and whether outcomes were advanced efficiently. Adjust behaviors, fine-tune communication, and continuously calibrate contributions. Over weeks and months, these incremental improvements compound, solidifying the perception that interaction with you is inherently advantageous. Becoming opportunity is a discipline of action, perception, and strategic awareness. A combination of intentional presence, consistent delivery, and relentless alignment with high-value outcomes. Number 8. Unspoken codes of high circles. High-level circles operate on codes that are rarely written, discussed, or formally acknowledged. They are the invisible rules, behavioral patterns, and social contracts that dictate access, influence, and trust within elite environments. Understanding these unspoken codes is essential for anyone who wants to move beyond superficial interaction and be genuinely effective within these spaces. Entry is not merely about skill or knowledge. It is about attuning to the subtleties of conduct, perception, and reciprocity that govern who is welcomed, whose ideas are amplified, and who is sidelined. One of the first codes is discretion. High circles are protective of information, relationships, and influence. Conversations often involve sensitive insights, strategic decisions, or private perspectives. Demonstrating that you can hold confidentiality is not just expected, it is a prerequisite. The smallest lapse of judgment in sharing information can damage credibility permanently. Observing how information flows, who is trusted with what, and how confidentiality is honored, provides critical cues about the behavioral norms within the group. Those who internalize discretion gain both access and respect. Another code revolves around contribution without ego. In these circles, attention gravitates to individuals who advance collective goals without overtly seeking credit. The subtle balance of offering valuable input while avoiding self-promotion signals maturity and situational intelligence. Those who monopolize conversations, inflate their importance, or demand recognition quickly become peripheral. Instead, contributing strategically, listening actively, and allowing outcomes to speak on your behalf aligns with the expectations of elite environments. Timing and rhythm are also central to the unspoken rules. High-level gatherings have their own internal cadence, including pauses, emphasis, and moments of influence. Speaking too early or too late, Interrupting or over-engaging can disrupt this flow and signal inexperience. Observing patterns when decision-makers solicit input, when debates reach inflection points, and when informal signals indicate openness, allows you to contribute at moments where your input carries weight. Awareness of timing transforms participation from random noise into strategic engagement. Respecting hierarchy without overemphasis is a subtle but essential norm. Every circle has implicit authority structures, including formal and informal leaders, influencers, and gatekeepers. Acknowledging these structures without excessive deference is a delicate art. Demonstrating awareness of who holds influence, while engaging peers thoughtfully, signals that you understand the dynamics and are capable of navigating them without creating tension. Misreading or ignoring these structures can result in alienation or dismissal. Observation is a core principle of navigating unspoken codes. Elite circles reward those who notice subtleties, shifts in tone, body language, relational patterns, and unspoken priorities. Being attuned to these signals allows you to anticipate needs, align contributions, and intervene effectively. Observation also signals intelligence and adaptability. Those who see beyond the obvious gain influence because they understand not only what is being said, but also what is being left unsaid. Reciprocity functions quietly but powerfully. High circles operate on networks of mutual support, often unspoken yet rigorously enforced. Those who consistently offer help, insight, or resources without immediate expectation of return build reputational credit. This is not about transactional exchange, but about creating patterns of trust and interdependence. Understanding when and how to offer support and recognizing the implicit value of these exchanges positions you as an individual whose involvement is both welcome and strategically advantageous. Composure is another unspoken expectation. Elite circles observe emotional stability, especially under stress, disagreement, or scrutiny. Reacting impulsively, displaying frustration, or losing temper communicates unreliability. Maintaining calm, measured responses signals maturity, resilience, and the ability to contribute thoughtfully under pressure. Composure enhances credibility and aligns with the psychological expectation that members of these circles are steady anchors rather than sources of instability. Subtlety in communication is a guiding principle. Directness is valued only when paired with tact, precision, and situational awareness. Messages should be framed to advance understanding, propose solutions, or clarify insight without creating conflict or appearing self-serving. Tone, phrasing, and timing all matter, and mastery of subtle cues, gestures, pauses, phrasing signals sophistication. Those who can convey insight without ostentation or aggression gain disproportionate influence within elite networks. Alignment of priorities is often implicit. Members of high circles expect contributions to support collective objectives, even when individual roles vary. This does not mean suppressing individuality, but framing actions and ideas to advance shared goals. Demonstrating an understanding of overarching objectives and adjusting behavior to complement them signals both intelligence and commitment to the group's success. Misalignment, even if subtle, can marginalize otherwise capable contributors. Observation of relational dynamics is crucial. These circles operate on networks of influence, where alliances, credibility, and reputations shape outcomes. Recognizing who is influential, who can facilitate progress, and who may obstruct initiatives allows strategic engagement. Effective participants act in ways that respect these dynamics, while positioning themselves to add value where it is most appreciated. Ignoring relational subtleties can isolate individuals, even if they possess exceptional skill or insight. Patience is an understated yet vital code. Influence and access are rarely granted immediately. Trust and credibility accrue gradually. Attempts to accelerate recognition or force attention are often counterproductive. High circles favor those who demonstrate long-term consistency, measured contribution, and strategic awareness over time. Patience signals discipline, foresight, and confidence in one's capacity to deliver value without immediate reward. Generosity of insight is a principle that differentiates respected participants. Offering thoughtful analysis, sharing relevant connections, or providing perspective that others may overlook signals both capability and engagement. Generosity here is intellectual, relational, and strategic, not merely social. It demonstrates that your presence enhances collective effectiveness, which aligns with the implicit expectation that members of these circles create mutual benefit rather than solely advancing personal agendas. Self-awareness underpins all unspoken codes. Understanding how you are perceived, recognizing your strengths and limitations, and adjusting behavior accordingly allows seamless navigation of these spaces. Overconfidence, misreading cues, or failure to adapt can compromise credibility. Those who develop keen self-awareness align their behavior with both explicit and implicit expectations, positioning themselves as reliable, insightful, and adaptive contributors. Every high circle has subtle rituals, patterns, and behaviors that communicate inclusion, expectation, and acceptance. Attending to these, whether through observing seating arrangements, modes of address, or patterns of engagement, provides critical insight into what behaviors are rewarded. Adapting to these codes demonstrates respect and cultural intelligence, both of which are invisible yet potent markers of trustworthiness and influence. Integration of all these codes, discretion, contribution without ego, timing, respect for hierarchy, observation, reciprocity, composure, subtlety, alignment, relational awareness, patience, generosity, and self-awareness creates a framework for effective engagement in elite environments. Mastery is not about rigid adherence, but about internalizing principles so they manifest naturally in actions, decisions, and presence. High circles reward subtlety, intelligence, and reliability more than talent alone. Those who internalize unspoken codes operate effectively without drawing undue attention, shaping outcomes quietly and sustainably. The ability to read, adapt, and respond appropriately to these invisible rules differentiates transient participants from those who are consistently sought after, trusted, and influential. Understanding these codes allows deliberate entry into spaces where outcomes are determined, access is coveted, and influence compounds. Daily practice involves observation, reflection, and subtle adjustment. Study interactions carefully, note patterns of attention, track who is influential and why, and refine behavior based on these insights. Each engagement is an opportunity to demonstrate alignment with unspoken norms, build credibility, and reinforce perception as a valuable, trustworthy participant. Over time, these habits embed, allowing seamless integration into high circles where influence, opportunity, and trust are concentrated. Number 9. Becoming valuable before being known. Value is recognized before fame, reputation, or personal visibility. In every environment where influence, opportunity, and resources are concentrated, those who succeed are not always the loudest or most known. They are the most useful, the most prepared, and the most consistently competent. Becoming valuable before being known is a principle rooted in substance over visibility. It requires deliberate cultivation of skills, insight, and reliability so that when the opportunity arises, recognition follows naturally. The process is not about self-promotion, it is about aligning your capabilities with needs that matter and demonstrating relevance without demanding acknowledgement. The first step is identifying areas where your skills, knowledge, or resources intersect with critical needs. Value is never absolute. It is relational. It exists where your contributions solve real problems, accelerate progress, or create leverage for others. Analyze the environments you wish to impact, who holds influence, what challenges they face, and where gaps exist. Invest time in developing competence that directly addresses these gaps. The more precisely your abilities match meaningful needs, the faster your unseen value becomes indispensable. Preparation without performance is a key mechanism. Work diligently behind the scenes, mastering tools, acquiring knowledge, and refining judgment. The most impactful individuals often operate quietly, learning and practicing long before their abilities are recognized. Expertise develops in relative obscurity, but it compounds over time into tangible results. Those who focus on substance rather than early acclaim cultivate a depth of capability that eventually attracts attention because it cannot be ignored. Reliability is central to being valuable before being known. Consistency in performance, follow-through and execution demonstrates trustworthiness. Delivering on commitments, no matter how small or initially unnoticed, builds a pattern that others perceive subconsciously. People naturally gravitate toward individuals whose output is dependable, even if their presence is not yet widely acknowledged. Reliability transforms potential into realized influence, setting the stage for recognition once visibility aligns with proven competence. Understanding timing amplifies unseen value. Opportunity often favors those who are prepared when critical moments emerge. By anticipating challenges, preempting obstacles, and crafting solutions before they are requested, you position yourself as a resource others rely upon. Those who act early, strategically, and effectively are noticed not for their visibility, but for the results they produce. Timing magnifies perceived value because readiness aligns with actionable need. Observation and situational awareness enhance unseen contribution. Pay close attention to dynamics, priorities, and unmet needs within any group or organization. Identify inefficiencies, overlooked opportunities, or emerging challenges. Value manifests when you can provide insights, solutions, or actions that others cannot see themselves. Attuning yourself to these subtleties allows you to operate beneath the radar while producing outsized impact. Subtle contributions often generate stronger impressions than overt attempts to be recognized. Developing adaptability is crucial. Value is not static. It is evaluated relative to evolving circumstances. High-impact individuals notice who can pivot quickly, who can assimilate new information, and who responds to unforeseen challenges with competence. Cultivate mental agility, refine problem-solving frameworks, and practice rapid learning. Being capable under changing conditions signals usefulness, reliability, and foresight, even before your reputation formally reaches the attention of influential players. Cultivating a mindset of service transforms perception over time. Individuals who focus on facilitating outcomes for others, solving problems, and reducing friction earn the attention of decision-makers organically. Service here is strategic. It is not self-effacing but oriented toward high-leverage impact. By consistently contributing in ways that advance objectives, your value accumulates, creating a foundation for recognition when visibility eventually occurs. Building credibility silently is also essential. Avoid the trap of self-promotion before substance. Credibility is reinforced through evidence of competence, insight, and impact. Document outcomes, track improvements, and maintain a record of contributions. Even if your efforts go unnoticed initially, the accumulation of demonstrable results positions you as a person of influence once recognition aligns with capability. This credibility often precedes widespread acknowledgement, ensuring that when people pay attention, it is grounded in tangible achievement. Strategic relationships amplify unseen value. Connect selectively with individuals who can recognize, utilize, and validate your contributions. These relationships serve as conduits for your competence to be acknowledged in the right circles at the right times. Facilitate value for others without expectation, demonstrating both expertise and generosity. When your work positively affects those with influence, your reputation expands naturally without forcing exposure. Developing specialization increases unseen utility. Broad competence has value, but deep, rare expertise in a critical area exponentially raises your worth. Identify domains where insight is scarce but impactful and invest in mastering them. Those who offer unique capabilities that few others possess are often sought after, even before their identity is widely known. Specialization allows contributions to be decisive rather than incremental, signaling importance without overt self-assertion. Demonstrating initiative reinforces hidden value. Opportunity is recognized by those who take action without explicit instruction. Anticipating needs, implementing solutions, and resolving friction points without prompting signals proactive competence. Initiative is often more visible to those in positions of influence than deliberate self-promotion because it produces measurable outcomes that others cannot overlook. The ability to act decisively before acknowledgement positions you as essential rather than optional. Communication enhances recognition once impact is evident. When the time comes for visibility, frame contributions clearly, highlighting tangible outcomes and insights that others may have overlooked. Avoid exaggeration, let results speak. Effective communication ensures that when attention aligns with value, your role is unmistakable. Timing, clarity, and relevance of messaging transform accumulated competence into recognized influence. Patience underpins long-term recognition. Becoming valuable before being known is rarely a rapid process. Influence, trust, and acknowledgement accrue through consistent application of skills, observation, reliability, and initiative over time. Impatience or premature self-promotion risks undermining credibility and perceived authenticity. Sustained effort, coupled with strategic positioning, ensures that recognition eventually aligns with demonstrated capability. The habit of reflection strengthens unseen contribution. Regularly evaluate where your skills have had impact, where gaps remain, and how your efforts align with critical needs. Adjust strategies to increase relevance and efficacy. Reflection enhances both the quality and visibility potential of contributions, ensuring that your efforts continually produce measurable outcomes that others will ultimately recognize. Becoming valuable before being known shifts the paradigm of influence from visibility to substance. It emphasizes mastery, strategic contribution, reliability, initiative, and alignment with critical needs. Individuals who internalize this principle operate with deliberate intent, focusing on what matters most and producing results that cannot be ignored. Recognition follows naturally, as those in positions of influence are drawn to consistent, demonstrable value. The process cultivates both capability and resilience. Operating without immediate acknowledgement fosters discipline, patience, and focus. By prioritizing meaningful impact over acclaim, you create a reputation grounded in authenticity and utility. When recognition eventually emerges, it is amplified because it is earned through consistent, substantive contribution rather than transient exposure or superficial visibility. Daily practice reinforces the principle. Invest in skill development, anticipate critical needs, act with precision, observe dynamics, cultivate strategic relationships, and maintain composure under pressure. Track contributions and refine approaches for maximum impact. Over time, your unseen value accumulates, positioning you as indispensable when the world finally acknowledges your influence. The journey of becoming valuable before being known is deliberate, disciplined, and deeply strategic, creating both opportunity and lasting authority in any environment. Number 10. Access is earned, not asked. Access is a privilege, not a right. In every environment where influence, opportunity, and decision-making are concentrated, the individuals who control entry are selective. They evaluate not only what someone brings to the table, but also how they behave, how they think, and how their presence aligns with objectives. Simply asking for access, regardless of talent or desire, is rarely sufficient. Influence, opportunity, and trust are earned through deliberate action, consistent demonstration of value, and an understanding of unspoken expectations. Those who treat access as a commodity rather than a responsibility often find doors closed, while those who prove themselves earn entry naturally. The first principle of earning access is demonstrating value before seeking it. Individuals who control entry are constantly assessing whether interaction will yield benefit. They respond to patterns of competence, insight, reliability, and foresight. Before requesting attention or inclusion, cultivate skills and capabilities that directly address pressing needs or enhance outcomes. When your contribution can solve problems, reduce friction, or accelerate progress, you create a foundation that justifies attention without having to demand it. Access is granted to those whose presence is inherently useful. Consistency is a second critical factor. People in positions of influence rarely grant access based on a single interaction. They observe patterns over time, evaluating whether someone can be counted on to deliver results repeatedly. Every promise kept, every task executed with excellence, every interaction handled thoughtfully contributes to an accumulation of credibility. Access follows those who build trust through repeated demonstration of competence, discipline, and reliability. One impressive performance may earn attention, but sustained action earns participation. Trust is the invisible currency of access. Those who control entry are cautious because granting access carries risk. Trust is earned by exhibiting integrity, discretion, and alignment with the priorities of decision-makers. Words must match actions, promises must be fulfilled. Even subtle inconsistencies can erode confidence. Demonstrating that your presence is safe, dependable, and aligned with the goals of those in control signals readiness for inclusion. Access is not given to those whose trustworthiness is unproven. Observation of culture and dynamics is essential. Elite environments operate on nuanced expectations, unspoken hierarchies, and behavioral norms. Understanding these subtleties is a prerequisite for entry. Who influences decisions? How is value assessed? Which behaviors are rewarded and which are ignored? By observing attentively, you gain insight into the patterns that govern access, allowing you to align actions strategically. Those who misread these dynamics often find opportunities withheld, regardless of skill or desire. Strategic alignment enhances the likelihood of access. Decision-makers favor those whose priorities, goals, and values complement their own. Access is earned when it is clear that your presence amplifies objectives rather than creates friction or competition. Framing contributions, interactions, and communications to support these priorities signals both intelligence and usefulness. Those who can anticipate needs and position themselves to address them become natural candidates for inclusion. Demonstrating initiative is a powerful factor in earning access. Waiting passively, asking repeatedly, or seeking permission before acting signals dependence rather than capability. By proactively identifying challenges, proposing solutions, and delivering results, you establish yourself as someone who adds measurable value. Initiative communicates that you are not merely seeking attention, but are prepared to contribute meaningfully to collective goals. Those who act decisively and intelligently earn trust and the right to participate. Scarcity of attention is also instructive. Individuals in high-influence positions often limit access to preserve focus and decision-making clarity, demonstrating that your engagement is meaningful, high-impact, and non-disruptive increases the likelihood that inclusion will be granted. Quality of contribution outweighs quantity of interaction. Those who signal that their presence enhances rather than dilutes outcomes are recognized as assets worth including. Patience is a necessary element. Access is rarely instantaneous. It accumulates gradually as credibility, competence, and reliability are demonstrated over time. Impatience or overt demands for inclusion can signal insecurity or entitlement, which discourages engagement. Patience, combined with consistent demonstration of value, cultivates anticipation and trust. Those who wait strategically while continuously delivering impact often find doors opening more readily than those who demand immediate recognition. The ability to communicate effectively reinforces earned access. When opportunities arise to demonstrate insight, perspective, or contribution, presenting ideas clearly, concisely, and in alignment with priority enhances perception. Access is reinforced by individuals who can contribute without creating confusion, conflict, or unnecessary work for decision makers. Effective communication ensures that the impact of your value is recognized and integrated into action. Relationship building is integral to access. While competence is essential, influence is often mediated through networks of trust. Cultivate connections thoughtfully, offering value without expectation of immediate return. Support others, provide insight, and facilitate outcomes. Over time, your reputation as a reliable, capable, and strategic contributor spreads organically. Access then becomes a natural consequence of recognition within trusted networks. Demonstrating emotional intelligence strengthens readiness for inclusion. Access is rarely granted to individuals who destabilize environments through impulsive reactions, conflict, or erratic behavior. Observing social dynamics, calibrating responses, and maintaining composure signals reliability and maturity. Emotional intelligence ensures that your presence adds stability and insight rather than friction, reinforcing the perception that access is warranted. Expertise and specialization further solidify eligibility for access. Individuals who bring unique, scarce, and actionable knowledge to a circle are naturally sought after. Depth of understanding in a critical area, combined with practical application, positions you as someone whose inclusion advances objectives efficiently. Access follows those whose presence multiplies capability rather than simply adding noise. Follow-through is the ultimate demonstration of readiness. Access is earned when actions consistently translate into outcomes. Ideas, suggestions, and commitments must be executed reliably. Those who accumulate tangible results signal that engagement is worthwhile, creating a foundation for deeper involvement and influence. Without execution, promises are hollow and doors remain closed. The principle of earned access reinforces discipline, foresight, and humility. It emphasizes action over entitlement, preparation over assumption, and contribution over visibility. Individuals who internalize this approach focus on creating tangible value, demonstrating reliability, and aligning themselves with priorities strategically. By embodying competence, consistency, and trustworthiness, inclusion is granted naturally and sustainably. Daily practice involves deliberate action. Identify high-impact areas, develop skills and resources, observe dynamics, act proactively, follow through, and refine approach based on outcomes. Over time, these disciplined behaviors accumulate into a reputation that cannot be ignored. Access is then no longer a favor to be requested, but a recognition of consistent, measurable, and meaningful contribution. Understanding that access is earned transforms mindset from entitlement to strategic contribution. It encourages the cultivation of competence, alignment, and foresight, while reinforcing patience, emotional intelligence, and reliability. Those who act on these principles experience not only entry into influential circles, but sustained inclusion, where trust, value, and opportunity are concentrated. Earning access is not an event. It is the result of disciplined, intentional, and consistently high-impact behavior that positions you as indispensable.